The White House. Donald Trump won the votes of 77 million people to return here. But the man seemingly making many of the decisions didn't receive a single vote. Elon Musk, the world's richest man, now has an office in the West Wing and seemingly carte blanche to restructure the US government. Well, I've been speaking to Americans, including ardent Trump supporters, about how they feel about this unelected billionaire having access to the federal government and even their personal information, and what that means for American democracy. Hours of queuing in the cold and rain couldn't stop Donald Trump's supporters from celebrating his presidential inauguration.
Come here, Elon!
But the man they put in the White House comes with a very ambitious, unelected associate.
Yeah!
Trump is a billionaire because he knows what he's doing. Elon Musk is the world's richest man because he knows what he's doing. So you get two really smart people together, and at the end of the day, Trump makes decisions based on what he feels. So he'll take input from Musk, and if he thinks it's a good idea, he'll roll with it.
He is one of the smartest people on the planet. Why would we not want him in a government position?
He has a drive to get things done and make the world better.
The Tesla and SpaceX CEO has certainly done a lot in the few weeks that Donald Trump has been in power. But not everyone agrees that it's made the world better. His actions leading the newly created Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, include dismantling the US's foreign aid agency, USAID, and accessing the Treasury Department's computer system, responsible for trillions of dollars of government payments.
So what's going on right now with Musk, specifically his efforts to essentially invade the Treasury Department and assert unilateral control and over things like USAID and interfere in the payment system of the Federal Reserve is unprecedented in the United States history.
It could also damage the US's global reputation at a time when its rivals, like China, are looking to step into any soft power vacuum created by the Trump administration.
So the PEPFAR program currently serves 20 million people living with HIV around the world with HIV treatment and millions more with HIV prevention. And this administration has frozen all of that money. That is a massive crisis around the world.
Many analysts see it as a crisis at home, too.
In my view, essentially amounts to a coup d'etat, what in kind of comparative terms we would refer to as a self-coup autogolpe, which is there are cases in which a president who's been elected, like Trump, carries out an active assault on other branches of government, eliminates their power, and asserts full control, dictatorial control over the country.
But many of the president's supporters disagree, saying that the South African native who became a US citizen at age 31 is an asset to the country he's now helping to run.
And I think the Department of Government Efficiency is really good.
A lot of us like to see something change, someone that's actually trying to do something instead of just sitting around.
But those who didn't vote for Donald Trump or Elon Musk are concerned. How big an issue is his closeness to these oligarchs, as they've been called, these rich, powerful men that haven't been elected?
It worries me for sure. And let's be real, I'm a lifelong Republican. We've allowed someone to buy the presidency. And we saw that happen with Elon offering $1 million a day for people who would commit to voting for Trump. That is not what our founding fathers had in mind when they created the Constitution and created our nation.
Those who study democracy agree that the cracks are showing in America's system of government.
So this, violates democracy at its core, right? That you cannot just have private individuals come in and ignore and violate laws with impunity and literally go into the most essential and kind of parts of the state, which is the payment system. You know, social security checks and private information and people's most intimate details, their social security numbers and the like. You know, they're opening up vast swaths of the American population to identity theft. I guess shocking almost seems like too mild a word.
But for many of Donald Trump's supporters, it's not shocking. It's what they wanted. I can see you are a Trump supporter, but are you an Elon Musk supporter?
I think that Trump surrounds himself with intelligent people that know what to do for specific tasks. And I think that's one of the things that I've appreciated about Donald Trump. He doesn't have to do it all himself. He doesn't have to be that person that solves everything. He surrounds himself with the correct people to get the job done.
Does it bother you that Elon Musk may end up making quite a lot of money out of this situation because his companies may get these government contracts and so on?
Give me one politician who hasn't made a buck off of the American people.
Donald Trump. He's the richest man in the world, Elon Trump. He doesn't need to make money off of this. What he believes in is free speech. And that's what we need in this United States of America, is our First Amendment rights back. And this Biden's administration has taken that from us. And so, yeah, I support Elon Musk.
But recent polls suggest that support for Musk is waning, spurring Democrats to take congressional action, though without Republican support, it can't advance. Meanwhile, federal judges and states' attorneys general have used the courts to curb Musk's efforts. But so far, he's followed the playbook he's used at his own companies, skirting the law and ignoring regulations. So even if these actions against him are successful, there is no guarantee that he'll comply with them.
I have the tractors? You do, sir.
For now, the world's richest man appears to have unprecedented access to the levers of power in Donald Trump's Washington.
Elon Musk is no stranger to Germany. Behind me you will see Tesla's Gigafactory in Berlin. It's the first and only of its kind in all of Europe. This project in many ways was a culmination of many years of negotiation between Musk and Germany's mainstream political parties. But those political partnerships in many ways are now a distant memory after the world's richest man decided to turn his back on the centrist parties and endorse Germany's most controversial populist right-wing group.
Yes, we can hear
To rapturous applause, Elon Musk dials in to deliver words of encouragement to a gathering of one of Europe's most controversial political movements.
Thank you so much.
Just weeks ahead of national elections, Musk threw his weight behind the Alternative for Deutschland, or AfD party, saying it could, quote, save Germany.
You know, it's okay to be proud to be German. This is a very important principle, it's okay, it's good to be proud of German culture, German values, and not to lose that in some sort of multiculturalism that dilutes everything.
AfD critics have long denounced it for promoting populist far-right views, including nationalism, anti-immigrant sentiment and Euroscepticism. But its supporters see the party as a voice for those frustrated with the policies and approaches of traditional parties on issues like immigration, economic disparity and a loss of German culture and identity. Thomas Frohlich is an AfD member of the European Parliament. He says Musk's endorsement has helped energize the party and push up its polling numbers.
Elon Musk's endorsement is an incredible gain, an incredible boost for our image, because Elon Musk is one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. On the one hand, it was a big surprise for me, but on the other hand, Elon Musk has made a lot of statements in the past that show political and philosophical alignment with the AfD. For example, in economic policy, he supports free market approaches similar to those of the AfD. He also rejects the woke culture and its accompanying issues like uncontrolled mass migration.
But Musk's high-profile intervention into German domestic affairs has also caused pushback. His endorsement a hot topic of conversation amongst AfD supporters and opponents alike. Well, we kind of find ourselves at the front line of the fairly ferocious political debate happening in Germany right now. The AfD party is due to hold a rally here in the outer suburbs of Berlin, but have a look at what awaits them here. Hundreds of counter-protesters have arrived, really rallying against this event even going ahead. Let's go and meet some of these protesters to see why they've come out tonight.
The German people are very aware that it happened already once and it can happen again. And that's why the people are here, because they know it can happen. It can happen that we get a fascist state of Germany, and that we don't want to accept.
They want to destroy democracy, they want to deport millions of people, and it's we've learned from history in Germany, something you have to stand up. It's really no wonder the AfD, they talk like they do politics for like the little man, but they do politics for the rich people and the super rich, like Elon Musk. So it's no wonder that he jumps on the bandwagon, you could say, and supports them.
But across the police cordon, the counter-rally appeared to have the opposite effect, energising AfD party faithful who went on the attack.
Ich hoffe, ihr könnt mich hören, denn ich kann euch überhaupt nicht hören und bin etwas enttäuscht, ehrlicherweise, ihr langweilt mich!
So listening to the main speeches here, you pick up a lot of similar themes that we heard in the US election. Anti-immigration policies, anti-renewable energy, and calling for an immediate end to the war in Ukraine.
Gott im Himmel sei Dank, dass Donald Trump Präsident der Vereinigten Staaten geworden ist.
But for the wider electorate, such combative rhetoric does come with its risks. Many German voters are approaching the new alliance between the AfD and a foreign billionaire with caution.
I think it's a disaster for Germany because I think an American businessman doesn't have anything to do with the German politics, and I think we have to decide ourselves what's best for our country and not what's best for Elon Musk.
Of course he can say his opinion, but also because he has so much power through owning social media companies and stuff.
We'll see if he can make America great again. I don't think so, so we'll see. But I don't think that billionaires should do politics in that way.
Go, go, go.
And resistance to Musk's intervention also appears to be manifesting itself in other ways. A Berlin court recently ruled his social media company X had to comply with requests from election monitors to hand over key information, including the reach, likes and shares of online posts. While the latest figures for Tesla vehicles showed sales plunged for the month of January by almost 60% in Germany. Well, following Germany's roughly 60 million voters heading to the polls, the record result for the AfD will undoubtedly reshape German politics. And while it will take a little bit of time to fully assess the impact Elon Musk had on the campaign, there can be little doubt that his intervention has caught the attention of other lawmakers across Europe as they reflect on what role he could play in future elections across the continent.
Inside this court in Manchester, multiple defendants are on trial for alleged child sexual exploitation. They've pleaded not guilty, but around England, hundreds of others have been convicted for systemically grooming young girls and using them for sex. They've been dubbed the grooming gangs, and last year Elon Musk accused the British government of covering up their activities and denying victims a national inquiry, claims that have had far-reaching consequences.
This is one of the 8 men accused of being part of a gang that treated 2 teenage girls as sex slaves. The prosecution alleges the abuse started when the victims were 13 years old and continued for 5 years. The court heard that this area has been blighted by this type of child sexual exploitation. and in July 2024, the local council asked the national government to help it with an inquiry into the extent of such abuse and how authorities potentially failed to protect hundreds of girls over decades.
I speak to these victims every single week.
UK Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips told the council a local inquiry would be more appropriate, that London needn't be involved. But Elon Musk picked up that story and claimed Phillips' refusal made her a rape genocide apologist, referring to the fact that in some towns in England, the sexual assault was carried out by predominantly British Asian men against white British girls. This has been a central campaigning issue of far-right figures in the UK for years. As the row escalated, Musk called Prime Minister Keir Starmer complicit in the rape of Britain and demanded he resign. There have already been many inquiries and reviews at the local, regional and national level, but most have been criticised for coming up short in some way, leading to a sense amongst many that the full picture hasn't been uncovered.
Councils have asked for a national inquiry and they've said no, and it's absurd. It shouldn't be like that. And, well, yeah, if the government's doing nothing about it, absolutely. If anyone steps in, that's great.
So why don't we have somebody from America commenting on it? It's brought it to the attention again, hasn't it? So yeah, he's quite right. Go for him.
He's got a free speech like anybody else, and he's talking the truth.
Publican and independent councillor Brian Hobin has been pushing for an inquiry in Oldham since 2019.
People have jumped on board after Elon has mentioned it, and so in that way he's lit the fire again for us, and it's more in the public mind now than I think it's ever been. Because we felt at times in Oldham that we was on our own and the audience wasn't big enough for us to demand things. But now, of course, it's nationwide, it's international, it's gone, hasn't it? So.
He's concerned, though, that from 8,000 kilometres away, and having only recently looked into the issue, Musk isn't getting the full picture.
He's done a great thing by highlighting it, but then I wouldn't like it to be spoilt by him being taken down a road, some people would call it by the far right or extremes. Because there is people out there with different agendas. Not necessarily the right agenda, not necessarily properly in the interest of the survivors.
One of the most sensitive and divisive aspects of the grooming gang scandal in England is to what extent culture and ethnicity were explanatory factors, with many on the far right convinced that immigrants and their failure to adopt British cultural values are the cause. In 2020, the UK Home Office concluded evidence for one community or culture being uniquely predisposed to offending was without basis. But in 2022, a review in Greater Manchester acknowledged gang-based child sexual exploitation in some individual towns was predominantly caused by one ethnic group against another. However, child sexual abuse of all kinds takes place in proportion to the demographic makeup of the UK, with the vast majority of perpetrators family members, and so of the same ethnicity, weakening the argument that culture alone is the key factor for such abuse. In early January, another Oldham councillor campaigning for an inquiry was surprised to see his interview to British media approvingly retweeted by Elon Musk. He was criticising what he saw as misguided attempts by the Labour-led council to shield British Asian Muslims from prejudice by refusing to dig further into what happened, though he does see a need for caution while the trials take place.
Justice should prevail, and it shouldn't look at who the race or religion of the perpetrator or the survivors. Justice needs to be blind to all that. Once that prevails, then we can have a conversation to say, okay, well, is there any underlying issue that we need to look at as communities, or as a community, as a Muslim community? Is there anything which we need to look at which is disturbing?
The chair of the independent inquiry into child sexual abuse doesn't believe there's a need for further and more detailed inquiries into UK grooming gangs. That 2022 investigation heard testimony from over 6,000 people into child sexual abuse of all forms in a variety of institutional settings, from churches to sports clubs. It provided 22 recommendations to government that, until Elon Musk revived the issue, had been ignored by successive administrations. But Dr. William Tantum, who was a junior researcher on that inquiry, is concerned about how Musk has gone about it.
I think he's been massively damaging, and it seems to me that the narrative of a powerful man talking over the testimonies of predominantly female survivors of child sexual abuse is an experience that many of them will have already faced, that someone in authority will drop not into their literal lives, but into the issue for the space of 2 tweets, or however many tweets he put out, and then disappear again.
The Labour-led government claims it will now implement those recommendations in full, but Dr. Tantum would also like tech companies to step up as well.
If Elon Musk was realistic about meaningfully wanting to engage with child sexual abuse and exploitation, he could begin by making X a sort of standard barrier across the globe of ending online facilitated exploitation.
X claims it is now trying to do that, but Elon Musk's interventions are having another effect. His commentary has been used as a catalyst by the right wing of British politics to attack the current left-of-centre government, but also to score points against each other.
But in this presidency, they are going to get what they voted for.
Through his collaboration with President Donald Trump and by intervening in grooming gangs in the UK, Musk's attention seems to now have shifted elsewhere as he forges on with an unprecedented effort to reshape the US federal government. But British politicians have seen the power of having the world's richest man on their side, a useful ally for those who seek his favour, but a destabilising source of foreign influence for those he disagrees with.